What if heaven isn't what you think it is? Not a place of clouds and calm, but a vast, terrifying structure, layer upon layer of divine order, judgment, and unimaginable glory. A place where angels weep, where souls burn, and where even the righteous tremble in the presence of God. Long before Moses, before the flood, before any scripture was written, one man was taken there alive. His name was Enoch, and according to an ancient text nearly lost to time, he didn't just visit heaven, he was dragged through 10 of them, each more overwhelming than the last. What he witnessed wasn't symbolic, it was real, structured, terrifying. This is not myth, this is a cosmic warning. In this video we're going deep into the Second Book of Enoch, a forbidden account of his ascent into the 10 heavens and the terrifying revelations he brought back. From angelic prisons to the throne of God himself, you're about to see why what Enoch saw will shake your soul. Before we begin, do me a favor. Like this video if you're ready for truth that challenges you. Subscribe for more eye-opening biblical content. Leave a comment with your thoughts or questions. And share this video with someone who's ready to see beyond the veil. Now prepare yourself. Because heaven is not silent, and it is not safe. Long before the floodwaters rose to cleanse a world drowned in violence, long before the law was given to Moses or the covenant promised to Abraham, there lived a man whose life ended in a way no other has experienced. His name was Enoch. He belonged to the 7th generation from Adam, and he walked the earth in an age so ancient, the soil still remembered Eden. In a time when human lifespans stretched nearly 1,000 years and giants still roamed among men, Enoch stood apart, not by strength or by conquest, but by something far more mysterious. He walked with God. The Bible, in its understated power, records his departure with a single haunting sentence: Enoch walked with God. And then he was no more, for God took him. There is no mention of death, no burial, no final words, only disappearance. The man who pleased God vanished from the earth without explanation. But the ancient world did not forget him, and neither did heaven. Centuries later, an apocryphal text known as the Second Book of Enoch would emerge from the shadows of Jewish mystical tradition. Preserved in fragments, translated in secret, and debated for generations, it claimed to tell the full story of what happened to Enoch after he was taken. This was not folklore or poetic allegory. It was presented as a direct testimony, a revelation given to Enoch by divine command, describing in detail his journey beyond the veil of the visible world. In this account, Enoch is not led softly into paradise. He is seized, abducted by 2 colossal angels sent by the Most High. They descend into his home without warning, radiant and terrifying, their presence shaking the foundations of the earth. They do not ask, they do not explain. They simply take him, lifting him bodily from the earth and pulling him upward, through clouds, past stars, and into dimensions no human eye was ever meant to see. What awaited him was not a single heaven, but 10 structured, terrifying realms layered above creation like a divine hierarchy. These were not realms of rest or comfort. They were realms of order, of fire, of judgment, and of incomprehensible glory. Each heaven revealed a deeper layer of how the universe operates. Snow stored in heavenly vaults, angels bound in darkness, paradise hidden beyond the stars, and ultimately, the unapproachable throne of God himself. This was not a dream, nor a metaphor. According to the Book of Enoch, this was a literal ascent into the mechanics of the cosmos, a divine commissioning to witness the terrifying reality behind all things. In every heaven, Enoch beheld forces that govern life, judge the dead, record human deeds, and manage the very rhythm of existence. He saw souls in agony, angels in mourning, and divine beings who trembled before the face of God. The journey would not only change him, it would exalt him, transforming Enoch from a man into a witness, a scribe, and eventually, a heavenly prince. But before that transformation, he would be forced to gaze upon scenes that would fracture the soul of any ordinary man. This is the hidden story of the one man who entered heaven alive and came back with a warning. What he saw was not comforting, it was overwhelming, it was absolute, and it was terrifying. As Enoch was drawn upward by the angels, he did not enter a vague spiritual fog or float in a formless paradise. He passed through 10 distinct realms, each with a specific structure, function, and spiritual atmosphere. These were not abstract symbols. They were real, populated, and deeply organized. What he saw dismantled any shallow notions of heaven as a quiet resting place. This was a cosmic administration of divine power, full of holy terror, radiant glory, and terrifying judgment. The first heaven, located just above the firmament of the earth, was not empty sky or celestial scenery. It was a functional realm, a vast network of angelic operations where the forces of nature were managed with chilling precision. Enoch saw chambers where snow, rain, hail, frost, and dew were carefully stored like armories, each one catalogued, protected, and prepared to be released at God's command. These were not seasonal phenomena. They were divine instruments of mercy and destruction, regulated by angels who understood the weight of their task. What we call weather, Enoch saw as weaponry waiting for divine release. The second heaven plunged Enoch into complete darkness. There was no light, no warmth, no beauty, only the cold presence of despair. Here, bound in eternal chains, were the angels who had rebelled long before the flood. These were not merely fallen spirits, but cosmic criminals, celestial beings who had violated divine order, and were now imprisoned in agony, groaning in the silence of a judgment that never ends. Cut off from the presence of God, they trembled in anticipation of the day of wrath. Their moans echoed through the void, and Enoch could do nothing but look on. This was a supernatural prison, sealed in horror. The third heaven presented a paradox so sharp it seared the soul. On one side, Enoch beheld paradise, the original Garden of Eden, untouched, uncorrupted, and still guarded by divine power. It was filled with trees that shimmered with eternal fruit, waters that whispered praise, and the souls of the righteous clothed in garments of brilliance. But directly opposite this paradise was a pit of fire, a dimension of punishment where the wicked were held in torment. Screams echoed from the abyss as souls were consumed without end, begging for mercy that would never come. Enoch saw both realms simultaneously, reward and wrath side by side, revealing that eternal destinies are not distant abstractions, but present realities already active in the unseen world. The fourth heaven unveiled the great engine of celestial motion. Enoch witnessed the movements of the sun and moon, not as lifeless orbs, but as living, obedient servants of God, guided by intelligent angelic beings. Here time was not a law of physics, it was a sacred rhythm, upheld by divine will. He also saw strange and majestic creatures, Chalkidri, long serpentine beings with multiple wings and glowing eyes, whose entire existence was devoted to singing praises to the Most High. They circled the heavens in unbroken worship, declaring truths humanity could never fully understand. This realm pulsed with divine intelligence, a sacred clockwork singing the name of God. The fifth heaven brought Enoch face to face with the Grigori, the Watchers who had once descended to earth, taken human wives, and corrupted mankind before the flood. These fallen angels no longer raged. They wept. They sat in silence, their wings folded in shame, their faces hidden from the light. Their glory was gone, their rebellion crushed under the weight of remorse. Moved with compassion, Enoch did what no human had done before. He prayed for them. He asked God to consider their sorrow. Though the Watchers could not be redeemed, God recorded Enoch's intercession, marking his compassion as righteous. This realm was heavy with regret, yet still watched by the mercy of heaven. The sixth heaven exposed the unseen governing body of creation. Here, towering archangels kept meticulous records of every soul, every action, every word ever spoken by man. These were not scrolls of parchment, but vast cosmic archives alive with divine light. The angels oversaw the birthing of nations, the rise and fall of rulers, the growth of rivers, the turning of seasons, and the movement of every living thing. They tracked the development of unborn children and held the records of judgment awaiting each human being. Enoch realized in this realm that nothing escapes heaven's gaze. Every heartbeat echoes in eternity. The seventh heaven took Enoch to the outer edge of divine glory. Here, the air itself shook with the sound of angelic worship. Radiant beings, more numerous than stars, stood in perfect order around a light too fierce to behold. These were the seraphim, the holy ones who served nearest to God's throne. Their songs were not melodies. They were earthquakes of praise that reverberated through creation, and though the throne itself was veiled from Enoch's direct sight, its presence was overwhelming. The very fabric of this realm burned with holiness. Enoch could not approach, yet even from a distance the nearness of God left him undone. The fear of the Lord was not an idea here, it was the atmosphere itself. The eighth heaven revealed the architecture of the cosmos. Governed by an angel named Muzaloth, this was the command center of the stars. Enoch saw constellations not as random arrangements of light, but as divinely programmed signs, each one moving according to a heavenly blueprint. Every orbit, every stellar cycle, every appearance in the night sky had meaning. This realm revealed that astronomy is not merely science, it is scripture written in the heavens, proclaiming the majesty and order of the Creator. The ninth heaven was the invisible framework that holds all things in their appointed time. Known in the ancient text as the upper firmament, it anchors the stars and seasons in place. From here, the rhythm of prophetic fulfillment is measured out. Nothing in this realm moves by accident. Seasons change when God allows. Empires fall when heaven decrees. This is the skeletal structure of divine providence, holding the timeline of the world in perfect tension. The 10th heaven was the culmination, the throne room of God himself. Here, Enoch stood at the edge of the unspeakable. There was no sun, no stars, no shadows, only unapproachable light. The throne of God, surrounded by flames and living creatures, radiated power so intense that even angels covered their faces. Creatures with countless eyes flew in circles, crying, "Holy, holy, holy," and their voices tore through eternity like thunder. And then, impossibly, Enoch was granted a vision of the face of God. He described it not with clarity but with awe. The face of the Lord was fire, and light, and judgment, and awe. This final realm was not peace, it was power beyond comprehension. Here, the soul is stripped of pride. Here, holiness is no longer a word, but a reality that overwhelms and terrifies. To see the face of God is to come undone, and Enoch saw it, and lived to tell the tale. Enoch's journey through the 10 heavens is not a comforting ascent into eternal rest. It is a soul-rattling confrontation with the raw and unfiltered holiness of God. For all its glimpses of paradise and order, the vision he records is overwhelmingly dominated by themes of judgment, accountability, and divine separation. It does not invite complacency, it demands reverence, and in many places, it evokes dread. What terrified Enoch was not merely what he saw, it was what those sights revealed about the unseen spiritual reality that governs everything. In the second heaven, he saw angels, once glorious beings, now bound in chains of darkness, isolated from divine light. These were not demonic caricatures, but celestial rebels whose punishment was eternal and whose cries for justice would never be answered. Their imprisonment was not the result of mythic drama, but the outcome of divine law that could not be overturned. It shattered any notion that rebellion against God ends in mere distance. It ends in eternal separation, isolation, and agony. In the third heaven, Enoch saw the torment of wicked human souls. This was not allegorical punishment or symbolic consequence. These were conscious spirits, fully aware, fully suffering, fully condemned. They burned in flames that did not consume, cried out in pain that received no reply, and watched, forever, from across the chasm as the righteous walked in peace just beyond their reach. Their condition was irreversible, their fate final. The proximity between heaven and hell made the contrast even more unbearable. There was no escape, there was no appeal, there was only divine justice in its purest form. Even in the higher heavens, those filled with light and harmony, Enoch found no relief from awe. As he approached the seventh heaven and glimpsed the edge of God's throne, he did not feel welcome, he felt undone. The very air around the throne crackled with judgment and power. Angels who had never sinned covered their faces in fear. They did not draw near out of intimacy, they remained in place out of reverence. The throne was not a place of rest, it was a place of ruling fire, of blinding holiness, and of eternal authority. When Enoch finally saw the face of God, it was not tender, it was not soft, it was not approachable. It was terrible in the truest sense of the word, not because God is evil, but because he is utterly, fearfully righteous. The face of God radiated fire and glory so intense that it nearly destroyed the one who beheld it. Enoch's own words describe not comfort but collapse. The face of the Lord was fire, and light, and judgment, and awe. There was no doubt, no resistance, no pride left in him. only trembling before the weight of absolute holiness. The terror of Enoch's vision lies not in fantasy, but in reality. Heaven, as he saw it, is not built for man's pleasure. It is built for God's glory. It is beautiful, but its beauty is unbearable for the unclean. It is perfectly ordered, but it does not bend. It is majestic, but it offers no sanctuary to the unrighteous. It does not flatter human pride. It crushes it under the weight of divine truth. This is why Enoch's testimony remains terrifying. It reveals that the spiritual world is not shaped by our imagination, but by God's will. And to stand in his presence, one must be utterly transformed or be utterly undone. Enoch's journey through the 10 heavens is more than a spiritual experience. It is a revelation of how reality itself is structured. What he saw exposed the inner framework of the universe, not as a chaotic expanse governed by chance, but as a layered and intelligently designed system, upheld by divine authority and maintained by celestial beings. Every detail in the heavens points to a truth that shakes modern assumptions. The universe is not indifferent, it is accountable. At the heart of this vision is divine order. Each level of heaven has a distinct role. The first heaven stores the elements. The eighth heaven maps the stars. The sixth heaven records every human soul. The precision with which these realms operate reveals that nothing in creation is accidental. From the patterns of the weather to the destinies of nations, everything is sustained by angelic administrators who serve under God's command. These beings are not decorative. They are functional, overseeing laws that bind both the spiritual and physical realms. The heavens are not chaotic. They are ordered with terrifying clarity. Running through this order is the theme of judgment and mercy. Enoch sees with his own eyes the eternal fates of both the righteous and the wicked. In the third heaven, he stands between paradise and hell, witnessing the joy of those who walked with God and the torment of those who rejected him. Yet Enoch also learns that God's justice is not deaf to repentance. Even the Watchers, those powerful angels who sinned before the flood, are not ignored in their sorrow. Though they remain bound, their cries are heard, and Enoch's intercession for them is honored. This balance reveals the terrifying duality of divine justice. Mercy is possible, but never cheap. Judgment is final, but never arbitrary. Perhaps the most human element in the vision is intercession. Enoch is not a passive observer. In the fifth heaven, when he sees the Watchers weeping in chains, he does not recoil. He speaks. He pleads on their behalf. In doing so, he becomes a model of heavenly advocacy. His willingness to act in the presence of overwhelming holiness shows that God's justice allows space for the voice of compassion. Even in a universe ruled by absolute law, there is still room for a righteous man to speak and be heard. But the most overwhelming theme of all is the fusion of majesty and dread. As Enoch ascends, every level increases in intensity. The light grows brighter, the voices grow louder, the beings grow more terrible to behold. And when he reaches the final heaven and sees the throne of God, it is not joy he feels, it is collapse. The holiness of God is not serene, it is consuming. Enoch's encounter with the divine is not peaceful. It is a terrifying confrontation with purity so absolute it annihilates pride and strips away all pretense. The closer he draws to God, the more unbearable that glory becomes. These revelations are not the inventions of mystics. They are not symbolic myths designed to entertain or inspire. According to Enoch, they are the real cosmic order, hidden behind the veil of this world, burning with purpose and righteousness. And for those who take them seriously, they do not produce comfort. They produce trembling. Because to truly understand how the heavens work is to realize just how small we are, how exposed we are, and how near we stand to judgment at every moment. The impact of Enoch's terrifying journey through the 10 heavens did not vanish into obscurity. Though the Second Book of Enoch is not found in most modern Bibles, its influence rippled across centuries, shaping some of the most powerful streams of religious thought in both Judaism and Christianity. His vision was not dismissed as superstition. It was preserved, contemplated, and expanded, because those who read it recognized something profoundly true beneath its mystery and fire. Within Jewish mysticism, Enoch's ascent became a foundational narrative. Later texts such as the Zohar, central to Kabbalistic tradition, drew from Enoch's celestial blueprint to develop a deeply symbolic cosmology. one that described not only the structure of the heavens, but also the spiritual anatomy of the human soul. The very idea of ascending through layers of divine realms, of encountering angelic beings who guard the secrets of the universe, is echoed in mystical systems that see the cosmos as a ladder between man and God. Enoch became more than a man. He became the archetype of the mystic, the heavenly scribe, the soul that dared to climb. In Christian eschatology, the legacy of Enoch's vision influenced early conceptions of heaven, judgment, and the angelic world. Church fathers wrestled with his testimony, and echoes of his journey appear in New Testament passages that speak of third heaven visions, heavenly thrones, and books of life. The vivid imagery of Revelation, with its fire, thrones, and multitudes of angels, bears striking resemblance to what Enoch described centuries earlier. His account helped early Christians visualize the terrifying grandeur of the Last Judgment, not as abstract allegory, but as a concrete spiritual reality waiting to be revealed. Enoch's testimony also resonates through the Dead Sea Scrolls, which preserve other Enochian texts and apocalyptic writings that reflect similar visions of divine order and cosmic warfare. These writings reveal that Enoch's revelations were not fringe ideas. They were part of a mainstream apocalyptic worldview in Second Temple Judaism, one that viewed history as a battleground between heaven and earth, light and darkness, holiness and corruption. Perhaps most notably, Enoch's journey birthed the discipline of angelology, the structured study of angels, their ranks, responsibilities, and roles in creation. Long before systematic theology defined the categories of seraphim, cherubim, thrones, and powers, Enoch described a universe teeming with intelligent, terrifying beings assigned to uphold the laws of God. These were not abstract metaphors. They were cosmic functionaries, watchers, recorders, punishers, guardians, each existing for a singular divine purpose. His account forced humanity to reconsider its place in the spiritual hierarchy and to recognize that we are not alone, and never have been. In an age where spirituality is often reduced to sentiment, and the supernatural dismissed as myth, Enoch's vision speaks with unsettling clarity. It offers a numinous view of existence, a universe not built for human comfort, but for divine glory. His message reminds us that there is law in heaven, structure in eternity, and judgment that cannot be escaped. The heavens are not quiet. They are alive, burning with light, trembling with holiness, and filled with the presence of a God who sees everything. And for those willing to listen, Enoch's terrifying ascent remains one of the most urgent spiritual warnings ever recorded. The journey of Enoch is not a forgotten myth or a mystical curiosity. It is a divine summons, preserved through generations as a wake-up call to those who dare to confront the reality of the unseen world. His ascent into the 10 heavens was not meant to satisfy curiosity or entertain speculation. It was meant to expose the structure of eternity, to reveal that what lies beyond this world is not silent, not shapeless, and certainly not safe. Enoch's testimony shakes us because it reveals that heaven is not passive. It is active, observant, and deeply involved. Every layer of the heavens has purpose. Every angel has assignment. Every chamber has record. The heavens do not sleep. They monitor the thoughts of kings, the cries of the innocent, and the sins of the forgotten. The divine realms are not some far-off celestial domain. They are closer than the air in your lungs, already watching, already recording, already responding. There is indescribable beauty in Enoch's vision, radiant gardens, angelic choirs, celestial architecture that defies imagination. But intertwined with that glory is an undeniable terror. The torment of the wicked, the sorrow of the fallen, the unyielding laws of justice, and the blazing face of God that no man can gaze upon without trembling. This is not a vision that flatters. It is a vision that strips away illusion. In Enoch's account, holiness is not comforting. It is confrontational, burning away all pretense. The 10 heavens are not merely prophetic symbols. They are operative realities. Even now, the scrolls are being written. The watchers remain in chains. The righteous dwell in light, and the throne of God continues to shine in unapproachable brilliance. These realms are not waiting to be discovered. They are already at work, intersecting with our world in ways we rarely perceive but constantly feel. Through conviction, consequence, and divine interruption. The true question is not whether these heavens exist, but whether you are prepared to stand before the one who sits at the top of them all. Are you living with reverence for the God whose throne is fire and whose voice shakes stars? Or are you walking through life as though eternity is a myth? Let Enoch's testimony pierce through the noise. Let it break the trance of apathy. Let it remind you that reverence is not outdated. It is essential. Because the fear of God is not mere terror. It is the beginning of wisdom, a trembling that leads not to despair, but to worship. What Enoch saw should terrify you. But if it terrifies you rightly, it may also save you. If this video opened your eyes to something deeper, something you've never considered before, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment below with your thoughts or questions, and subscribe for more revelations that challenge, inspire, and awaken. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video with them. Let the voice of Enoch speak again. The 10 heavens are not distant legends. They are divine realities, closer than breath, already shaping the fate of the world. Enoch's journey reminds us that we live under the gaze of a holy God, who records, who reigns, and who will return. His story is not one of comfort, but of clarity, a warning, a summons. We are not drifting through a meaningless cosmos. We are moving toward a throne that burns with judgment and mercy. So ask yourself, are you ready to face what lies at the top? Thank you so much for watching. I am truly grateful for every one of you who takes the time to engage, reflect, and seek truth alongside this channel. Your presence here matters. Until next time, walk wisely, live reverently, and never forget, what Enoch saw will terrify you, but it may also awaken you.